Welcome to GreenBiz Studio. I'm Netha Rajendran, the Net Zero Analyst here at GreenBiz, and I'm excited to be speaking with Christina Shim, Global Head of Product at IBM Sustainability Software. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So my first question for you is, sustainability and ESG are hot topics across boardrooms. What are your observations with organizations getting started on their sustainability journey to achieve their goals?
Yeah, I think we're living in a really interesting time. There's a lot of regulations that are starting to require that organizations are thinking about their ESG and sustainability posture. And a lot of CEOs and other senior executives who have also simultaneously or in parallel created like net zero commitments and other commitments as it relates to ESG and sustainability. The challenge has been, from what we see, that organizations underneath the board and underneath the CEO don't necessarily know how to operationalize it. Like, what does that really mean? And how do I go about achieving those commitments? I'd say all the organizations that we see and the clients that we work with, they are all across the board, across the spectrum in terms of where they are and where they need to go. And I would say, for the most part, the big encouragement that we give them is, you've already started on the journey somewhere. You may not know it, but start wherever you currently are, get a baseline for what data you need, and move from there into the direction that you need to be moving. So I would say, there's a lot of differences by industry and by company, but for everybody, just get started. Even if you don't necessarily know where you're trying to get to, I think there are a lot of changes and evolutions in the landscape, and we just need to get going and moving in the same direction together.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And what role do you think software can play in the sustainability journey for companies?
Yeah, I think it can play across multiple different areas. So what we've seen so far is, for example, I mentioned some of the regulations that are coming in. Lots of reporting requirements are coming into play. And oftentimes companies don't have access to a single system of record that allows them to understand the entire organization's posture around sustainability and ESG, and then what they need to do, or what kind of insights and actions they need to take based on that data. Right now, almost all the companies we talk to are still working manually from spreadsheets, and that's not scalable, and that's not something that they can continue doing, as you can imagine, going forward. So software plays a huge role in that. How do we make sure that we're leveraging technology to help us understand what's going on in our business and report against whatever requirements become standardized in a way where people are not tapping things out in spreadsheets? I would say the second part of this is also then actioning on it, right? How do we operationalize it? So if it means that we need to make sure our buildings are more efficient, or optimizing production in our manufacturing facilities, or understanding how transparent and traceable our supply chain is in order to trace things back, these are all things that software can help with and should help with, because there's no way that we're going to be able to achieve the goals that we need to be achieving together and collectively if we're going to be doing things manually. Technology is a critical component and part of that story.
Absolutely. And diving a little bit deeper into that technology piece, why is data so important in helping organizations achieve their sustainability goals?
Because data is where we're able to understand where we are and how to understand where our business needs to go, right? So as I mentioned, when any organization thinks about where they currently are with their sustainability or ESG posture, typically these sources of information are coming from all around the business, right? So you're talking about, what are your people doing? What are your buildings doing? What are your data centers doing? What kind of factories are you running? And all of these typically are run in different systems with hundreds of different data sources that are coming up. That makes it really difficult to understand more holistically what's happening across your entire business. And so what this allows you to do is getting a handle on your data allows you to really get an understanding for your business and how to optimize your operations and your costs and reduce your waste and emissions in a way that is actionable. And I kind of joke that this is the non-sexy stuff with sustainability, but it's really the day-to-day decision-making that you incorporate as part of your core business operations. And the only way that you can do that is by getting a handle on your data.
Absolutely. These are important insights to consider, especially with so many companies setting very ambitious goals. And that leads me to my next question. We see so many organizations setting net zero targets, but the
Mhm.
timeline is shrinking. What can companies do to sort of move the needle on this?
So I think that companies need to very first and foremost get a handle on their data. It is a big challenge, right? Don't get me wrong. These are not, there's a reason why Fortune 10, Fortune 500 companies are still using spreadsheets. It's because they're still having a very difficult time getting a handle around that data. So, first and foremost, get a handle on your data. Understand where your company currently is from a baseline perspective. That's the only way you're going to be able to action and move forward. I think, in addition to that, one of the earlier questions that you mentioned is around technology, right? We all need to accelerate our sustainability journeys. To your point, time is running out. And so, in order to do that, we can't do things on a bit by bit basis or a person by person basis or spreadsheet by spreadsheet basis. We need to use technology to help to accelerate it exponentially. Otherwise, we won't be able to get to where we need to go as quickly as we need to get there.
Absolutely. And Christina, I want to thank you so much for joining us today to discuss these very important topics.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me and look forward to future discussions.